When Bina grasps, then there is the joy of grasping. When a person understands something, you feel good, you feel happy. And when you don't understand, you feel frustrated. Chokhmah bichlal, that senses that which is above the ability to understand. The koyach of Shvat. We are holding by preparing for Purim, Megilas Esther. The shiur is Le'iloi Nishmas Maras Orna Bas Chaim Alea Shalom, and Lizchus all the soldiers that are protecting our homeland. And there should be a complete victory with the returning of all the captives and the complete and real, true, complete Geula. We are on page, in Megilas Esther, Torah Or, page 186. More correctly, we are page Tzadik Daled, which is 187. And we are in the right side of page Tzadik Daled, the main paragraph, like 8 lines from the bottom of the main paragraph, the line that starts, Ulefi Mailas Nishmaso Be'ilui Achar Ilui. I hope everybody has that. Under Lios B'Vchina and over Ha'amur B'Megillah. So this is the second chapter of the Maimar. The first chapter began with a question about the difference between the 5th and the 8th chapter of Megilas Esther. In the 5th chapter, Queen Esther, just touched the scepter of the king, and in chapter 8 of the Megillah, Oisches, he gave her the whole sharvit, the whole scepter. What's the difference? And what does it mean, Baruch Nio, since Torah is eternal? So at first, to understand all this, the Rebbe first says we need to know what Esther is. And Esther represents the union of concealment, which means the state of the Jewish soul or the Jewish nation at the time of Galus, when there is Hester Panim, when Elokus is not revealed. And so too, each and every individual is called Esther. Why? Because of the Ahava Tivis, the natural love that every Jew has to Hashem, is mechusar and mesuseres, is covered up and hidden. And that's why we are in the spiritual condition of Esther. This was the first chapter. The second chapter, Abigail prepared beautiful review questions, and we'll go through them and then continue B'ezras Hashem. Thank you, Abigail, for the beautiful questions. Number 1, what is the advantage of Purim over all the other Yamim Tovim that will not be annulled in the future to come?
Purim is because it was the Jewish people who accepted the Torah at that moment, our Mesiras Nefesh.
What's unique about Purim comparing to other Yamim Tovim? The second chapter begins with.
The tremendous light that it has, more than a different Yom Tov.
Right, which Lo Yasuf Mizaram, that it is a Yom Tov that will never be annulled, which is not unlike other Yamim Tovim, that will be battled, as Chazal say. Purim, just as halachos and mitzvahs will remain. And we explained, right, that it's not a real battle of Yamim Tovim, because Torah is nitzchi, is eternal, never will change, but the light of the Yamim Tovim will not be as bright vis-a-vis the light of the Geula, but Purim will. Purim's light will still shine bright, and we have to understand that. And that is.
But Hannah, what's so beautiful is that light really does come from the Yidden. That's what's so profound about it. Of course, it's Hashem's mercy, but it's something that grows from us that makes it so eternal.
I cannot disagree. Number 2, how does it relate to the ascent of the worlds and the soul on Shabbosim and Yamim Tovim. It's how it relates, because the Rebbe is beginning to understand, to explain what does it mean when Chazal say that Purim will still stand out in the reality of Geula. What does it mean? So to understand the Maila of the Yontev of Purim, we have to understand the Maila of Yamim Tovim Bechlal. Any holy days, which is Shabbos and Yamim Tovim. And what was the question about that? Okay, I think that is how it relates. So what happens on Shabbosim and Yamim Tovim?
There's this tremendous light, and there's the aliyahs of the Elamos, the aliyahs of the neshamas that come on Shabbos Yontif.
Right, there's an aliyah of the Olamos. Why?
Because it's the light that comes out, and they
there's
could.
more Gilui Elokus. And if there's more Gilui Elokus, all the nitzutzim, and there's more light, more fire, all the sparks are drawn to the fire. There's aliyah in all the Olamos, aliyah sa Olamos, and the aliyah of the nitzutzos in all Neshamos Israel at the special times of Shabbosim and Yamim Tovim, and each Yom Tov has its own special hashpah that ignites certain nitzutzos. If the example the Rebbe gave here is Pesach, that Pesach is the Gilui of Midas HaChesed, the divine love, and therefore we'll get from there to number 3. Shavuos,
But the key again.
Shavuos, for instance, is the Gilui of Inyan of Gvura. And that will rectify Inyanim that are connected to Gvura, and so on and so forth. And Sukkot will be Midas HaTiferet, Inyan of Yaakov, and so on. Every Yontef has its own Gilui Elokus that we are first explaining Bechlal what Gilui Elokus in what happens on Shabbos and Yamim Tovim, and then we'll focus on Purim, Be'ezras Hashem. Number 3, how does our service? So we know that Yamim Tovim Bechlal is a time to understand the Maila of Purim and the rest of Moadim. And the question was hard because the time of Esther, Dafka, why Purim is higher? The time of Esther was time of Hester Panim. It wasn't a time of Gilui Elokus. Why Purim is so special? So the Rebbe says, let's explain what Moadim and Shabbosim are, and then we will, according to this, later on in the 5th chapter, the Rebbe, it will lead to how Purim is unique, and in the 5th chapter, how halachos are unique, and they are similar to Purim, and they will not be battle. But let's do one thing at a time. And the first, the Rebbe explained that the Inyan is, the Shabbos and Yamim Tovim is Inyan, as Friedel says, Aliyah Sa'olamos. All the worlds are getting closer to Hashem. That happens in Pnimius Ha'olamos, and that's why we don't see it. Tzaddikim see it, but it happens in the Pnimius because the Chitzonius Ha'olamos stays the same physical world with each world, the same world with the same external appearance. But internally there is an Inyan of Aliyah Sa'olamos, and all the Nitzutzos, all the Neshamos that are ascending with it. This is the time of Shabbos and Yamim Tovim, Mipnei Or Hashem HaMizgaleh Baitim Hahem. Because of the light of Hashem, extra light, that is revealed those days. And the Rebbe says, Nitosef Bahem Orah V'Simcha V'Chedvas Hashem. There is an extra light, an extra joy, an extra gladness in the intimate closeness to Hashem. And that inflames the neshamas and drives them to cleave to Him more passionately. That happens every Shabbos and Yom Tov, and then each one has its own special, unique quality, and he gave the example of Pesach. The Pesach, the Or Ha'ava is revealed, the light of the divine chesed. And through this, number 3, how does our service of transforming Taivos Gashmim uncover the love of Hashem and enable us to internalize the revelation of the light of love and sublime kindness in our souls.
Just want to say even before,
I would question it a little bit. I would structure this question a little bit differently. I would say,
if you don't mind,
yes, Faidu?
I wanted to say, like what you were saying about before, the famous story by the Record Shabbat, that when he was a little kid, he felt when it was Shabbos. That famous story with the Gemara that he was learning.
That he asked what happened if you don't know, you got lost in the desert.
You don't know which day is Shabbos.
You feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what the point?
I'm just saying that he was able to feel, as a little kid, he was able to feel what Shabbos is.
That's it. Aliyas ha'olamas. Exactly. Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Ken. Very good. That he gives an example of an extra light that shines in the Yontef of Pesach, and that affects us in what matter, in what way? That should be number 3. In what way? So the Rebbe says that the revelation of the divine love, Midas HaChesed, and the extra light and the revelation on Pesach, they me'orer, they give us the power, they empower us, Nesinas Koyach, to reject anything, כל המונים המבטלים, דהיינו הדברים שהם הפך ונגד אהבת השם שהם טייבס גשמים. This extra revelation on Pesach gives us the koyach to reject and fight all the physical attractions that we have that are against Ahavas Hashem and block us from Ahavas Hashem, and it empowers us to have an extra ability to subdue and to transform the Sitra Achra. First of all, to subdue, L'akfaya Sitra Achra, to subdue our materialistic pursuits and to subdue our addictions and so on and so forth. And this is what the Pasuk says, Lemakeh Mitzrayim bivchoreim ki leolam chazdo. Who are Mitzrayim? We'll learn. Mitzrayim is the Bechor of Klippas. And Mitzrayim itself is a Bechor. And in Mitzrayim is Bchorehem. And we said that the Mittler Rebbe explained that Mitzrayim represents the Klippa of Chochma de Klippa. The energy of Chochma de Klippa. Just like we have Chochma de Kedusha, there is Chochma de Klippa. If the Chochma de Kedusha is the onset of the consciousness, the beginning of the consciousness of Kedusha, Chochma of Klippa is the birth of the consciousness of Klippa. And that's Paro and the Mitzrayim, and Bchorei Mitzrayim, Ki leolam chazdo. When there is the chesed of Hashem, ki leolam, comes into the olam, chazdo, the chesed of Hashem is revealed on Pesach. Ki leolam comes into the world, then it's lemakeh Mitzrayim bivchoreim. Then we can strike the klipa of Mitzrayim, of the chokhmah, of all our consciousness that is invested in worldly, materialistic, ungodly attractions and technologies and realities. Number 4, what does the pasuk from Shir HaShirim, Mizos olam min hamidbar ketimrat ashan mekuteres, refer to? Who is this feminine who rises from the desert? Who is Zos? What does the desert refer to from the word daber or davar? And when does Malchus ascend? So now...
So it's Knesset Yisrael, is Me'alav Amidbar.
Right, so the Rebbe is describing us what happens to Knesset Yisrael, to the collective Jewish soul at the time of Shabbos and Yontef. And the description is just the way Abigail described it from Shir HaShirim. Okay, so let's hear, Friedel. So who is it? It's Knesset Yisrael, right? And yes. The midbar, it can also be from the word daber. What process is described? What process? What process is described here?
The aliyah to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Yeah.
Right. That ends up with an experience of tremendous simcha.
Right.
which we learn Simcha comes mamash from the Alma Discassia, from Makifim, from very high. Okay, but there are stages of how a Jewish soul ascends from the worldly, ungodly realities to come closer and closer, as Michal is saying, to Hashem. Okay.
So it starts with Kisimris Oshen. That is
Who is Zeus? Who is Zeus?
This is Zeus is also Knesset Yisrael.
Right. And
Malchus.
yes, and Malchus, that is called Zeus. It's the
Malchus,
feminine
right.
aspect. Like Malchus is the feminine that gathers all the energies from the higher spheres. It's called Zeus. It's the Shom Nekeva. Yes. So Knesset Israel, which is Malchus of Atzilus, is Knesset Israel, the origin of the collective Jewish soul is Malchus of Atzilus. It's called Zeus. Okay. What was the next question?
Mina Midbar.
What is this Midbar?
It's the idle talk.
First,
That's it.
before that.
Shmama. Waste.
Mama. Right. Shimamon, desolation. No,
Covering of God.
Yeah.
He's covering up godliness.
no man lives there. And man means Adam Elyon. No Elokus, no divinity.
It says Shem Dvarim Gashim Loila Hashem Hema.
Exactly.
That's what it says here.
Dvarim Gashmim asher lo la'ashava yehema. These are physical realities. They have nothing to do in their consciousness or awareness to do with godliness. That's midbar. It means that there is no presence of divinity. The world, the way is deprived of God. Midbar. It's desolation. Nothing grows there. No Elokus, no Adam. Adam doesn't live there. Adam Elyon doesn't live there. That's one meaning. The second meaning, that's
Yes.
midbar milashon desolation. Yes.
Yeah. The next one is Lashon Dibur.
Yes, which means
It's Dvarim B'Teilim that you would say on Shabbos.
that you shouldn't say on Sabbath.
You should.
You cannot say on Shabbat.
So we ascend from a reality of Dvarim B'Teilim that we all see us run in our minds and in our conversation, blah, 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 and Dvarim that they have no goal, have no Kedusha in them, and no divine purpose, no positive purpose. Dvarim B'Teilim. We have to ascend on Shabbos and Yom Tov. The Neshama ascends to a higher reality that cannot engage, shouldn't, not allowed to, and can't engage in conversation. It hurts the Neshama to engage in conversations that are ungodly, that are not for Hashem, because it contradicts the light that shines and the fire that the soul is ignited with. Very good. Thank you. Did we cover number 4? But right now the Rebbe is describing the mechanism milamayla. What happens milamayla on Yamim Tovim and Shabbos, how it affects the neshama, and what happens in Purim and in time of Geula. So we need to understand that. It's not contradictory at all to the fact that you're saying that really this is the avoid of if this person is not aware and doesn't do any avoida on Shabbos and Yom Tov, he will not be aligned with any of it. And you will keep talking Dvarim B'Teilim and not learning this Maimer and not being aware of anything. Of course, it's all, we have to use each and every opportunity to do the avodah that correlates with it. Of course. And without that, there's nothing to talk about it, nobody home. But who is this that Abigail is so passionately saying, look at this beautiful woman who's working so hard to come up? And there were 2 ways in the way she's described. One is a
Simras Oshen.
right, like pillars of fire, of smoke. And the other one is
Mikuteres.
Megatyrus, yeah.
right, Mekuteres, which is the anan, the light smoke, very refined smoke, like incense, the smoke of incense. And what these 2 represent?
So the first one is the heavy Gashmius, the Chumrius. It makes it makes this tremendous smoke, and then they gave the example of like it's against the fire, like the lachluchis that's in the wood is against the fire, so that's why it makes a tremendous smoke.
Right.
And on the other hand, the other one, the Keteris, is very fine. It's a neshama even that needs a little bit of fine tuning, basically. On Shabbos, to go a little bit higher, so it comes out from the Keteris, which is in Mizbech Hazahav, the inside.
Right. So just
and
make
it's called
sure that
honor.
you are not mixing it with the Maimar, because this is what the Mittler Rebbe explained. Just know that in the Maimar itself, I brought for the mixture. In the Maimar itself, the Rebbe says that the Riboy Ashan, as you described correctly, is according to the Riboy Halachluchis, how much dampness is present in the object that's being burned. And so too, when Or Hashem revealed on Shabbos and Yamim Tovim, it burns away and consumes anything which is opposite of Kedusha, to be able to subdue the Sitra Achra, to subdue the Yetzer Hara, to subdue anything which is against the Lokus.
Is that automatic? Is that automatic though?
No. Abigail would not let that pass. Not automatic. You have to work.
Yes, after the Avodah of the week.
And takes the opportunity, and one of the question is, how does the work we do to prepare for Shabbos and Yom Tov compare to the service on the outer altar and the inner altar in Beis HaMikdash? So that is also connected to that.
But it's preparing for Shabbos and Yom Tov, it's the work that's done on Shabbos and Yom Tov.
Well, there is both. There is both, but most of it is done before Shabbos and Yom Tov. The Shabbos and Yom Tov, you already reap the fruits.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I thought the tremendous light.
You have to be aware and present on Shabbos and Yom Tov. If you're not conscious, then nothing happens. Things will happen, but not intentfully and not in a way that you are really fully aligned with it. Yes.
You have to prepare Erev Shabbos to eat on Shabbos.
Yes, Mishetarach Berach Shabbos Yochel b'Shabbos. That's what we're learning now in Samach Vav tomorrow morning.
But I thought that the tremendous light that's revealed on Shabbos and Yom Tov, it gives the opportunity to burn all this, the Gashmis, Sitracha, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, that's what gives you the koyach.
Yeah, so it's not before Shabbos.
During the week. If you don't do the avodah, you will not, this koyach will not change anything. You need to do the avodah. You have to use, that's what Shabbos minei bizbachim kulo yomin. Shabbos gives the power for the coming week. You do the avodah. And then the next Shabbos is the elevation of all the avodah you did with the power of the previous Shabbos. It's always a tzov all the time. Shabbos and Yamim and weekdays. Shabbos and week. And one feeds the other. One feeds the other. You make the Timot Ashan, the heavier kind of coarseness that has to be burnt in the fiery passion to Hashem, is represented by as you mentioned, the Mizbeach Chitzon, the external altar, which deals with Hakravas HaBehema and the parts and the cheled, the fats of the behema and so on, dealing with the nefesh elokis, Bahamis, and then the mekuteres, the mizbeach hapnimi, is the hakravas v'aliyas nefesh elokis, like the ktoros was brought on the golden inner mizbeach. So the Mittler Rebbe explains that the aliyah of the nefesh Bahamis is through the burning and the bitul of the ra of the nefesh Bahamis, which is mamash hepech HaKedusha, the opposite of Kedusha, and the ascending of the nefesh Elokis is really the bitul of the former Yeshus that it has even in Kedusha, because any form, even in Kedusha, is a restriction, is a Mitzrayim. And we need to have such level of bitul that we need even to let go with anything that we are holding on to, which is not enabling us to internalize a higher level of reality. So there has to be a continuing of burning away anything that is in the way in our ability to relate to Or Sof, to Elokus, and that constant burning, it's constant refinement. that never ends. And it's the Torah. That's already the subtle. And as you say, it's mainly
but we
in
talk
divrei
about
harishus, in
a concept of simcha.
in
Doesn't
areas
that
of permissible, things that are permissible. It's not averos, you don't have mitzvahs or averos, things that are permissible, and you are refining yourself more and more to say, this is the Yom Yov, right? That Hasidim train themselves, that what they really wanted very much, they didn't take. They didn't, darf doch nicht. It's a process of refinement of more, it's not a matter of navera, of refraining from averos, it's refraining from anything which is, would compromise my intimacy with God.
I just want to say just the words of the Mimer. It says, "Ki she'or Hashem mizgala b'Shabbosos v'Yom Tov sorev u'machala davar ha'hafuk."
Yes.
So it sounds like on Shabbos this happens.
And Shabbos is the outcome of that, yeah. In Shabbos the srefa happens. But what enables it to happen is the avodah that you did.
Yeah, so
Shabbos, all the avodah is elevated. Everything is consumed by the fire, goes up in the fire, in the divine fire, yeah.
but on Shabbos.
Yeah, it happens on Shabbos, but it's the culmination of the work that done is the weekdays. But on Shabbos, when the big fire comes, that's when it happens. Yes. And that's what inspires and gives koyach for the coming week. So now we know Mizot HaOlah. So first of all, on Yamim Tovim Shabbos, there is an aliyah of the consciousness of the Jewish neshama, and she comes up, she ascends from the lower reality of the Gashmius attractions and so on, and activities and engagements and mind and we all know, and diburim and conversations that are betelim, that have no divine goal in them, there are no adding light or adding any kedusha in the world. So in Shabbos and Yom Tov, we are more sensitive to this, and we can ascend and we can transcend it because in the extra light that shines. So that's the first stage of the aliyah of the neshama towards simcha, which Michla wants to know how the simcha happens. So this is the first stage. The Rebbe is teaching us how you get to the simcha. The first stage is by ascending from the reality of weekdays and gashmius and so on to the reality of kedusha and the reality of ascending any activity which is ungodly. And as
my question was a little different.
You gotta work hard on it. Yes.
My question was, if we're talking about bittul hayesh and simcha has to do with person, in other words, if we're trying to get bittul hayesh in the let's say ketairos, so simcha is always going to be attached to some kind of yeshus. Otherwise it's just about the Eibishter. Where does that emotion come in?
Okay, it's a good question. That will be, you will see that simcha is connected with light that is even higher than soiviv.
It's like the Alter Rebbe said, he only wants you. Hashem, he doesn't want anything. That was his biggest simcha.
That's what Esther said. She didn't want any psamim, any makeup. Okay, but okay, I'm holding the horses back again because they're running again. Let's go to step by step. How do we get to the simcha? The first thing is olam min hamidbar, kimros ashan and mekuteres. That's the first stage. Now comes stage number 2 or 3, depends how you count. But let me see if you ran out of questions here. Watching our speech on Shabbos. Okay, what changes on our speech on Shabbos? I think we discussed it. How does the work we do to prepare for Shabbos and Yom Tov compare to the service on the outer altar and the inner altar in Beis HaMikdash? Yes?
Yeah, we did it.
You want to say anything else, Abigail, regarding that?
No.
Shmone, what is the difference between Ashan, smoke, and the Anan, which discussed it? And 9, what is the work of refinement on the outer altar, on the inner altar?
We discussed it also, huh?
We discussed.
Yeah, we discussed all of that.
Now, let's get to the text. ואחר כך. So we came up from the midbar in two stages. One, we left behind the heavy coarseness, and then we left behind the more refined coarseness. ואחר כך, which means freeing ourselves a little bit from all the gashmius and the coarse pulls and attractions that cover up the elokus in our own selves. So fine, that's the first stage. Shabbos, Yom Tov, we have to ascend from all these realities, activities, consciousness, and to go to a higher consciousness. Now comes ואחר כך יהיה בבחינת more. Then the person becomes in a principle of more. What is more? More, הוא האמור במגילה, is what it says in Megilas Esther, בהגיע תור נערה ונערה לבוא אל המלך. When it came the turn of each and every girl to come to the king, שכל ניצוץ ישראל הם בבחינת נוקבה לגבי הקדוש ברוך הוא. That every Jewish spark, every soul, Jewish soul, is like the female in relation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is Nara. Every Jewish soul is this girl who wants to come closer to the king and be accepted by him. לעלוס ולרעוס באור הווי. Every Jewish soul wants to ascend and to see the light of Hashem. כל אחד לפי מדרגתו. Each and every one according to his level. כל נערה ונערה. Every Jewish soul wants to come closer to the king. So after a person managed to burn and to annul all his taivos, even the subtle taivos, and to work with his ego and with goof and so on, now he can come to the inyan of more. More is the inyan of mar, like Miriam, merirus, bitterness. Regarding the avoida of more, it says in the Megillah that when it comes the turn of each and every girl to come to the king, how did they prepare? Shisha chodashim b'shemen amor chulu. Gomer. The first thing, when Nara is to come to the Melech, she has to be anointed with a more ointment for 6 months. So the Melech is the king. The king is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course. And how she can come close to the king? Shisha chodashim b'shemen amor. 6 months she has to spend being anointed with the oil of more. Shemen hu b'chinas chokhmah. What's shemen amor? Shemen is the inyan of chokhmah. Liyos b'chinas mor, b'chinas merirus. To be, then a person becomes bitter. He becomes like more. What does it mean? It means shemen is the inyan of chokhmah. And in what does a person have to be mischakem, and to be in a manner of more, and to reach a regesh of merirus, a feeling of bitterness, anything that blocks over Or HaKedusha. How is that? So the Rebbe explains, שמאחר שעולה מן המדבר, since a person already is in a condition that he is coming up from his midbar, he is burning away his taivos olam hazeh, ומפרר ומפריד, and he crumbles away and he separates hara, the bed, להיות כלה ונשרף בעשן וקיטור, to be all consumed and burned away with the smoke and with the lighter type of smoke, there are none. Then אזי ישכיל היטב עניין המרירוס מן ההפך איך הוא ומה הוא. When a person refines himself and frees himself, ascends and frees himself from the passions to Olam Hazeh, and picks up his head a little bit from that, then with his chokhmah, he can very well understand how bitter it is when Elokus is hidden and concealed from us. So the reason why the avodah of more, the merirus on concealment, because of concealment of Elokus, comes only after the annulment of all the taivos, like smoke, is because as long as a person still feels attraction to the pleasures of this world, even if they are only subtle type of taivos, it's not possible to fully feel the merirus, a true merirus, on things that are hepech hakdusha. But when a person is already in a condition sha'ala min hamidbar, that he arose from this reality of the Mitzrayim of Olam Hazeh, and he's burned away and consumed all the Ra in the Ashan and in the Kitor, the Ktores, then he can understand and conceptualize very well the inyan of merirus when he needs to be confronting or be confronted with anything which is menaged to Elokus, opposite to Elokus. So that's the more. Bichlal, the inyan of merirus is connected with chokhmah. Bina is not the simcha that we're talking about so much here, but bina is the gladness of a person that is being able to, when bina grasps, then there is the joy of grasping. When a person understands something, you feel good, you feel happy. And when you don't understand, you feel frustrated. Chokhmah bichlal is the part of us, the Rebbe doesn't get into that here, but it's the part of us that senses that which is above the ability to understand. And therefore, many times, in Chokhmah there is pain. Because Chokhmah feels the difficulty to see Elokus because of our limitations, or anything that stands in the way. And therefore, many times, the Chokhmah, the ability, Chokhmah is the ultimate bittul that enables us to see. Chokhmah is like seeing, right? While Bina is like hearing. So Chokhmah is seeing Elokus. And when you could see Elokus in principle and you don't, it's a very painful thing. So that's the more that comes when Chokhmah realizes how much it could see Elokus, and there is something that blocks it, or a certain coarseness that wasn't refined and now is standing in the way. There's the bitterness of, how the Rebbe says it's exactly, the merirus min hahepech echu umau. So the merirus from the opposite of Elokus, how is it and what is it? Really to understand that bitterness, that pain. So that's the second stage. 6 חודשים בשמן המור. ואחר כך, then the Rebbe says, comes the third stage. יבוא לבחינס לבונה. More is one thing, and now comes לבונה. לבונה היא בחינס השמחה, get ready מיכלה. לבונה is בחינס השמחה, בחדווה השם. Levona is the joy of the gladness of godliness. Yismach Yisrael be'osav. How the Jewish soul is rejoicing within its maker. So after coming to a feeling of merirus, of bitterness, more, on the hester, the things that opposite of Kedusha are causing, then a person can come to Levona, which is the Simcha Behavai. Here, the Rebbe doesn't explain the kesher between Levona and Simcha. The Mittler Rebbe, though, explains that Levona includes all kinds of Pesamim, Kol Minei Pesamim, which Tucker represents Moichin de Ima. Again, it's not part of the Maimar. I'm just bringing it as but those who want to go deeper, more Kabbalistically, that Kol Minei Psamim representing Moichin the Ima, and we said before that Chokhmah is sometimes connected to the pain of not being able to see Elokus, and Bina is or the pain of the Seichel realizing its limit to understand Elokus, and Bina is the joy of grasping and understanding Elokus. So the Mittler Rebbe says that Levona kolel kol minei psamim that are representing Moichin the Ima, and this is the Simcha in Chedvat Hashem. When you feel close and you feel that you can relate and you are led with the happiness of intimacy with Hashem, and perhaps you can say also that Levona comes from the term Lavan, from the word Lavan, which is white, the Gavan Lavan. The Tzemach Tzedek says that, and it shayach also to Simcha, and soon we'll see why. And you can, psychologically, the term Mara Levana, there is a white gold and black gold. Mara Levana and Mara Shchora. So Mara Levana, white gold represents Simcha, and Mara Shchora, and the black gold represents depression and sadness. So this is the Levona. This is the Levona. Ezeu inyan 6 חודשים בבשמים. So 6 months she has to spend being anointed with Shem and Amor. The neshama has to experience, after it clears yourself, now she's experiencing the pain of anything. She's so sensitive. Anything that stands against and blocks her Elokus, she's in pain. The berirus of anything inside or outside that blocks her from Elokus. And now she can be ve'ezeu inyan 6 חודשים בבשמים. 6 months with the spices, בשמים, with fragrances, כי כמו שהריח נקלט ונכנס לתוך גופו ומענג בדשן נפשו, just as fragrance, ריח, good smell, is absorbed and integrated into his body, and he delights his body with delights, it delights the body with delights of the good fragrance, הגם שהוא דבר שאין בו ממש, even though ריח is something that אין בו ממש, doesn't have a ממשוס, ואין נראה ונסגלה לעין, smell is not something you can weigh or doesn't have a color, cannot see it, cannot be revealed as a tangible thing, רק נקלט הריח לתוך גופו, only the smell is absorbed by the body. כך בכלל, says the Rebbe, עניין השמחה בהוויה, the idea of the simcha בהוויה, you should know that real simcha בהוויה comes הוא למעלמא דיסקסיה. The Rebbe explained that it comes from Akifim. Mittler Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, they explained this maimah, that comes the simcha that we are talking about. That simcha בהוויה is coming from alma diskasya, the world of the infinity, the world that is not מצומצם, rather the world of infinity, שרק שמשמחס את הלב, רק שמשמחס את הלב ומלהיטו להצלהט ולהצלהב באור הוויה. And this type of simcha that is born out of these following these 2 stages, as the third stage is mesamachas et halev. It rejoices the heart and inflames malhito. It's like red hot. It inflames and heats up the heart, lehislahet, to be inflamed and heated up and inflamed be'or Hashem. So on this avoida, and again, it's all avoidas. You're right, Abigail. It's all, there has to be a conscious avoida. You're aware of each stage and what you're experiencing, and you have to fully participate. It's not just watching a movie. על avoida זו של לבונה, this avoida of לבונה and simcha, that comes after more, it says in the Megillah, 6 חודשים בבשמים. 6 months in the פסמים. פסמים cause oneg and simcha לנפש. Fragrances, good, perfumes is a whole industry because it causes simcha לנפש. And it causes oneg. We make a bracha on psamim. The reason why this simcha is compared to psamim, because the inyan of reach, even though reach has no mamashus, yet it absorbed in the body and delights the nefesh and the body. So too the simcha b'havaya comes from Or Hashem hane'elam. It's the Or Hashem. What do you mean ne'elam? It's beyond our consciousness. It's really beyond our logic, beyond our reasoning. It is something that nogea to etzem hanefesh, to the elokus in the nefesh. It's called alma diskasya. It's a world that is hidden and concealed. Nevertheless, this world that is concealed and superconscious has the power to ignite and heat up our heart with a simcha and a passion that is really very delightful to the soul. A little bit more. So now we have, it's all very brief, we need other mamarim to explain more. We just, the Rebbe is presenting. It is now, there's no long discussions. So we have the Ashan and the Ktoires, then we have the Mor, then we have the Levona, and then it continues, the pasuk in Shir HaShirim, Mikol Avkat Rochel, from any makeup powder, Avka is a powder of Rochel, Hem Kol Minei Hislav, what is all kind of powders, of makeup powders that women use? Hem Kol Minei Hislahavus. There are all kinds of excitements, asher bechol nefesh mi-Yisrael, that, as we said, now each nefesh in Israel is now inflamed and excited, and each one has its own version of its excitement, each nefesh according to its nature, to its level, and so on. Kol chad lefum shiurei delay. Each one according to his measure, his level. Vehu inyan, what it says in the Megillah, so the Rebbe is constantly making a comparison between the pasuk of Shir HaShirim by Shlomo HaMelech and the Megillah. So after Levona comes Mikol Avkat Rochel, which are in the Megillah, Betamrukei Hanashim, with all the tamrukim, all the makeup of women, which is the union of Avkat Rochel, all these powders. שבכל אלו הנערה באה אל המלך. With all these, it says in the Megillah, the girl, after all this, the girl is brought to the king, comes to the king.
What about Shisha Chodeshim Babsamim? That's not a level?
That's the Levona. That's
the Levona. Okay.
That is the Levona.
Okay.
Yes, Basamim, כל מיני פסמים. בפסמים, the כל מיני פסמים. The Levona was a mixture of many psamim. That's the end of Simcha, like Psamim makes the oneg and simcha. It's interesting regarding this that Esther lo biksha davar. All the girls were how do you say, intensely preparing themselves and asking for all the makeups and all the powders and all the oils and all the ointments and and Esther lo biksha davar. What does it mean beruchnius? She didn't ask for Shemen Amor. She didn't ask for the psamim.
That's the complete Bittul Hayesh.
Very good. Bittul b'metzius.
Oh, sorry.
Even Bittul Hayesh. She didn't ask the Tramrukei Nashim, didn't ask from any...
That's what answers my question. That's what I was asking. That was exactly what I was asking, so I see the answer.
Esther didn't want all this. She didn't want any Giluim. All these are still Giluim. Esther didn't want Olam Giluim, Olam Haba, Gan Eden. She didn't want. Mili Bashamayim Imcha lo chafasti. She wanted the king himself. She didn't want any Giluim. But that's like a side. Atzmus and Mahus. She wanted the king himself and not any compromise otherwise. In any case, but let's summarize the Maimar the second perek of the Maimar, Purim will never be annulled, unlike the rest of the Moadim. Why? Because Purim is me'ein la'asid lavo. Purim is me'ein, similar to the future to come, the same light that will shine then. And to understand the Maila of Purim, we have to preface by explaining the spiritual content, tochen, of Yamim Tovim. Then there is a Gilui of Or Havai, Or Hashem, that affects an Aliyah in the Neshama. In this Aliyah, there are various stages. First, there has to be the ascending from Dvarim that are opposite of Kedusha. Timrot Ashan, the smoke. Then there is the burning, that's the burning of the Ta'avot Hagasot, the coarse taivos, which are Mamash Hepech Kedusha, opposite, the contradictory to godliness and holiness. Then there is Mekuteres, which is the Anan Dak, the fine kind of smoke, is the burning, consuming, and transform, at least subduing, and if not transforming, the more subtle taivos that not everybody sees, but maybe it's more subtle, it's more ego, it's mixed ulterior motives, all kind of things, subtle things that only you know, and including indulgence in things that you are maybe allowed to eat or to consume, but you don't need it. And if you don't need it, it will costen you. And therefore you work on that too. That's the second stage of the second part of the first stage of burning the taivos. And then comes the more, which means the feeling of merirus, of anything that hides or conceals the light of Kedusha. A person becomes intolerant to not being able to tolerate or having intolerance to things that are blocking or interfering with the light of Kedusha. And then comes the Levona, the Simcha in Avodas Hashem. Kol Avkat Rochel, all the Tamrukim, all the powders are all kinds of islavus, of the excitement and the flame of the neshama, each one according to her nature and according to her level. These aliyos are reflecting what it says in the Megillah, how the girls would prepare themselves to be seen by the king. And the Ruchnius is the aliyah of the neshamos towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shisha Chodashim b'Shemen Amor, Gomer Babsamim, Tamrukei Nashim. All these are descriptions of different stages of coming closer and closer to Hashem, in the relationship between the Jewish soul and Hashem, in this process of exiting the reality of taivos of Olam Hazeh and attaching oneself to Kedusha. Now the next perek, after understanding all these stages of aliyos and coming closer, Shabbos and Yontif, to Hashem, we will explain how it is reflected in the relation between Esther and the king in connection to the scepter, the Sharvit HaZahav, and what it means to touch the edge of the scepter, and what does it mean to receive the whole scepter from the king. And then we'll understand Purim, Be'ezras Hashem.